13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do by Amy Morin. Imagine in the span of 1 month, your parent died, your spouse got into an accident, and you lost your beloved pet of 13 years. These are all considerable things to go through on their own, let alone in a close span of time. What would you do to help yourself get out of the emotional low? Drink? Exercise? Recluse yourself from the world for a while? Amy Morin, a psychotherapist and the author of this book, went through a series of tragedies in close proximity to one another. Instead of letting her grief and sadness overtake her, she used her skills to remind herself of 13 things she would not do in order to make progress after significant setbacks. Of the list of 13 things, 3 are especially destructive mental habits. But if you are aware of them and choose to correct them, you will naturally avoid the remaining 10 things. Number 1, mentally strong people don't feel the world owes them anything. What if your landlord lets you know that you have to move out in a month because he is selling the building? Would you think, that's not fair, I deserve this apartment? As adults, we face a starkly different world than the protected environment we grew up in as kids. Our parents and teachers were there to make things fair and equitable. But as adults, there is no one overseeing our lives to do this for us. Some of us think that a higher power should intervene and enact justice on our behalf. Mentally strong people do not fall into this trap of thinking anyone or anything owes them. They realize that sometimes bad things happen, and even if you are smart, strong, deserving, you are not exempt from this inevitably. In the face of adversity, mentally strong people tell themselves, it could be worse. And they think of those who live a much less desirable life than even their worst moment. After comparing their situation to those who live harder lives, they don't think of what they are owed, but of how they can help those less fortunate. Instead of complaining about the injustice in their lives, mentally strong people are busy doing so many good deeds. They don't have time to think of what the world may owe them. This could mean helping a stranded driver, paying for a person's coffee behind you, or lending your possessions to someone. Mentally strong people think less of what they deserve and focus on who they can serve. Number 2, mentally strong people don't focus on what they can't control. Back to your recently lost apartment. What about what's in your control? Not the fact that your landlord wants to sell, not the fact that the new owners are renovating and you need to leave, but what you can control is where to move next, how much rent you can afford, and if you want to change neighborhoods or not. When you focus on what you do have, the ability to move and afford a new location, your health, your friendships, amongst other things, you have more time to spend building your dreams. Sometimes what we can control isn't quite as straightforward as a move. Maybe it's your health or the negative decisions of someone around you. The fear of these more serious issues can overtake us. What if your loved one was in a serious car accident? You have no control over their recovery and the fear is taking over. A strategy Amy mentions in this case is to write it down. On a piece of paper, write a list of your fears and things you cannot control about a situation, like your feelings, other people, the future. Beneath that, write a list of things within your control, like your response, your behavior, things you can focus on. Rip off the section of paper containing things out of your control. And now comes the satisfying part. Either rip that section into tiny little pieces or put those fears into a fire and watch them burn. This small but symbolic act will help you let go of what you cannot control and allow more room for you to live life to the fullest. Number 3, mentally strong people don't make the same mistake over and over. You've likely heard the saying, if you fall off the horse, get back on again. But there is a catch to this oversimplified adage. Mentally strong people don't just hop back on the horse. Hopping it won't happen again. They take a moment to consider why they fell off in the first place. Did you lose a customer at work recently? Don't just snort out to find a new one to replace it. Think about why you lost it in the first place. When you take the time to face mistakes, it allows you to take a hard look at what happened, learn from it, and avoid that mistake in the future. Owning mistakes is a sign of great strength. I'm sure you can remember a time when someone came clean on something that was their fault. This happens so infrequently in life, it makes a mark. Be the person who becomes stronger and more resilient, setting an example in the meantime by recognizing and admitting your errors. Because this happens so infrequently, and we don't have a tremendous amount of guidance to model taking ownership of mistakes, here's a simple exercise that will be helpful in removing some of the resistance you may feel in order to successfully own your mistakes. Think of a mistake you made and imagine helping someone else correct it. Consider yourself in third person and go through factors that may have led to that mistake. You could think about thoughts, behaviors, or external factors that contributed. Now make an action plan. List the reasons why you don't want to make that mistake again. The act of writing this down will motivate you to avoid the mistake in the future. Carry it around with you, and when tempted to fall back into a familiar pattern, reading that list over may help you resist. Let's say you snack on carbs after dinner each evening. If you have a list of the why you don't want to do this anymore, read that list and it may help you spur on to change your old patterns. Here's the list of the 13 negative mental habits. You'll see how focusing on the ones we just went over naturally inhibit the negative mental patterns listed beneath them. For instance, if you stop feeling the world owes you anything, you'll automatically stop feeling sorry for yourself and stop resenting other people's success. Likewise, if you stop wasting energy on things you cannot control, then you will automatically stop dwelling on the past, letting people's opinion dictate your life, worrying about pleasing everyone. Similarly speaking, when you stop making mistakes over and over again, you stop shying away from change, fearing calculated risks, expect results right away, giving up after the first failure, and ultimately fearing alone time. All of these 13 reasons are destructive mental habits that prevent growth after a setback. If you can manage to avoid these after a tragedy or negative time, you will bounce back faster and spend more time living life to its fullest.